Hi, I'm Ceara Crawshaw, the CEO and founder of Pencil and Paper. We make enterprise software beautiful and easy to use. So I wanted to share a few UX tips for fintech products. So at Pencil and Paper, we focus on just software that people use at work. And so the fintech that I'm talking about will be applicable for financial management software, investment software, portfolio management products, trading platforms, modeling software, that kind of thing. So let's just take a second to appreciate fintech in business. What is the user experience that we're actually going for and trying to create? What are some of the ways that we think about user experience in this context that's a bit unique to other UX worlds? I'm going to use the example of Bloomberg Terminal. So this product is pretty intense. It's very dense. We've got a lot of colors going. There's absolute customizability of this thing. It comes with its own computer. It's extremely important for people using this every day. And so this is not something that you would look at as a designer and be like, oh yeah, that must be industry leading. You probably wouldn't say that to yourself, but there's a lot about this thing that is really important for us to come to appreciate, I think, when we think about products like this. When we look at and we kind of demo the software being used, we're like, okay, the data density is very overwhelming to a design eyeball, but to an actual user that is, trading and doing all these investment things, this is ideal. This is awesome. I recently took an investment course, and the prof brought up some stuff that was a lot of layers of information on a graph, so many that I'd never seen before, even though I'd worked on a ton of data dashboards in my life. And that was something he loved using. So I think just kind of breaking away from our designer mentality of this thing has to be so cute all the time. This is, a bias that we're introducing. And so we really need to center it back onto the actual people that are using the software that we're talking about. Okay, so let's get into some tips for improving the fintech user experience. So the first thing that I want to share is to hone in on finance professionals. In enterprise software or B2B SaaS products, it can be really hard to access the right people. It's really important that you get a diverse group of these finance professionals that you're actually testing with. So a lot of companies, they just have a few keener power users that they draw from all the time, but this is not really fair to do because different companies as well as different individuals, there is a diversity of preferences and perspectives that you need to take into account. The next tip I've got here is to really master the art of data visualization and creating data experiences that are totally appropriate for that exact group. So the kinds of dashboards that you might be creating might be monitoring dashboards that are real-time, reporting dashboards, or you might even have data experiences that are super deep dive. And so people get really into filters and data tables and all sorts of things like that. So my UX tip here is that when you're designing this experience, really clearly explain what data is behind what you're looking at. So are there constraints? Are there data quality things? All that kind of thing. Really create a deep understanding of the data that you're actually working with. If you gloss over it, you will not be able to design something that is really great. So navigating complex workflows and actions. So when you're designing interaction in these kind of products, you really need to take into account the stakes that are involved. And so there's this kind of typical thing in design where we're expediency, make it easy, make it fast. But do we want to make it fast to, sell $10 million worth of share? Do we want to maybe have a confirmation step? Maybe we do want to do that fast, but we need to think about seamlessness versus friction when we're looking at these really complex workflows and actions. So efficiency versus, carefulness. So the UX tip here is to make sure that these workflows are as kind of in-depth as possible. They really show the state of the system, what's going to happen before you do it, so that people can really assess the impact of their actions before they take those actions. So the next tip that we're going to talk about is around building trust in the AI-driven digital finance experience. So there's a lot of features coming out that are heavily focused on artificial intelligence / AI. We've got recommendations, automatic calculation of values and data visualizations, data cleanup happening, suggested calculations or models. I don't know. All of these sort of features can be embodied in this kind of software. And so fintech professionals, finance professionals really need to trust that the data is being handled really well, it's reliable, high quality, and that the AI being added to it is also reliable. And so there's lots of different ways that you can be clear in your communication method. But this is something to keep at the very top of your mind. So the UX tip here is, whenever possible, alert users to the potential consequences of their intended actions up front rather than issuing feedback retroactively. So make sure that people are aware of the data source, the logic of the recommendation, or any other relevant information in the context in which they're working. So don't just bury the information in help documentation. Next UX tip is around keeping up with regulatory compliance. So this is the depth of detail that really comes out in B2B SaaS / enterprise software and in the fintech world. There are a lot of regulatory things to think about nationally, internationally, lots of stuff, lots of rules. So before designing a new product or feature, make sure that you've got a solid grasp on those requirements. Chances are retrofitting a whole bunch of this compliance-related logic into your software is going to be so hard to do after the fact. So be aware of what these things are. The workflow can be a bit tough with this specific topic, depending on how much access you have to people that know about this stuff and how much knowledge they have of tech and things like that. So it's not necessarily very, very straightforward, stepwise thing to do, but understanding the compliance as deeply as you can going into products and features it can only pay you dividends, finance pun intended. Okay, so just wrapping up, I hope that this video helped you overall think about your fintech experience a little bit differently, or sparked some interesting ways of thinking or ideas for you that you wouldn't have necessarily thought about. This is stuff that we dig into at P&P all the time when we work on fintech products in the enterprise world. If you're curious about what it's like to collaborate with us, pop over to our website and check things out from there. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.